Today going to talk about the diorama that I made with my son Cameron to show off his 1/24 scale cars. Little shed I made, a little garage with lots of bits and pieces in it, and then we made a junkyard to go off the side of it. So this was made during COVID. We had a bit of time on my hands, went out the workshop, got a piece of board and just sort of played around with some ideas. When I model, I like to try and get the scale as good as possible. So I'll grab either a figurine or a car or something of that nature that represents the size of what I'm doing, and then sort of model it from there. I'm not necessarily one that grabs a scale rule and that sort of thing. It's certainly one way to do it, but yeah, I prefer just to visually look at the piece, imagine how that is going to look, and then work from there. The first thing we sort of did with this scene was figure out a bit of a plan on, okay, it was going to be a garage, there was going to be stuff inside the garage, and then outside there'd be obviously things you'd find around a junkyard. I thought it'd be a good time to actually try a little bit of sculpturing. In 1/24 scale, this was a nice little challenge. The process starts with the armature for the tree. Here I had just got some electrical cable that I had lying around. Price of copper wasn't that extreme, so I was happy to use that. So, and as you can see here, just wrap the wire around an armature and then poke branches out. I was wanting to make a gnarly old tree, so yeah, I didn't want it to be too flash. It was, you know, old school with a tyre swing hanging from it, that sort of thing maybe. So yeah, I just kept winding wires together and until I got a form and a shape that I figured I could do something with. And then the next step was getting some, I use air dry modelling clay. It's cheap as chips, and the clay was so great to work with. It stays flexible and pliable for ages. You can sculpt the bark, and I was happy with the results actually. So yeah, after we got the shape, the sort of bark and all that, the beauty of it too is actually thinking about it, you could still mold the branches and move them around a little bit. So the clay is brilliant for that type of thing. The form's done, we got some paint on it, and then put some scenery on it. Stoked with the results actually, very happy. So with that aside and that giving me a good scale to work with, we moved on then, and I found a piece of board lying around the workshop, and we started. Not a ruler in sight here, all this is just done by eye based on the scale of the car. So I just cut up the strips of balsa wood, built it as it was a real building. No plans, working it out as I went along. Made sure that we had some doors and windows in it. Once the main framework, the body of the framework was done, I coated it with a brown wash just to give it a more old weathered timber sort of look, which I was very happy with. Cladded the outside in the scaled pieces of plywood sheeting, and then it was on to the roof. Again, just made out of scaled balsa wood. I did want it to lift off so that we could get photos in the interior. Very happy with the process of that. Again, put trusses and things in it, just like a real shed would have had. And then when it came time for the actual cladding, the roof itself, I used the corrugated cardboard from a box. Now, the process for getting into this corrugation, the corrugation's laminated between two sheets. What you do with the sheet you want to remove, if you get a spray bottle with water and spray the whole section of cardboard you want to take off and get it really wet. You've got to get enough water on it to let it soak through and just soften up the glue that's holding it to the corrugation. It can vary depending on the thickness of the top layer of paper, 10-15 minutes, something like that, but you'll soon know. Once you've got it wet enough, you just start peeling it back from one of the corners, and if it starts to peel away, then you're good to go. If not, keep some water on it. It doesn't really matter how much water you put on it, because you let it dry anyway, but at some point the glue will release. You can peel that top layer off and you'll be left with a awesome corrugation that you can use for fencing or buildings, whatever you like. Obviously different size boxes have different size corrugations, but if you look down the end of it, you can see whether they're tiny or big or whatever, and yeah, appropriately cut your sheets out as required. Once you've got the cardboard sheet, top sheet off, let the corrugated sheet itself dry out, of course. Cut to shape, size, whatever you're doing with it. I cut these sheets into strips like real long run iron sheets would be, and laid them on the roof in an appropriate manner, glued them down, and then weathered it up accordingly. There's plenty of proprietary products you can buy for corrugations and that sort of thing. You can make up, I've seen other guys make up rollers to put through and put corrugations on things, all that sort of stuff. But yeah, this is just one way of going about it. Good old cardboard. I was stoked with the results, and the cardboard accepts colour very well as well, so you can weather it up or paint it or do whatever you want to do and get that effect that you're after. Here I decided to put some battening on the outside of it just to give it a bit more character, and I like the look of it, so carried on. Tested out some scenery. Had a creeper growing up the side of the shed here, up onto the roof, and you can see the leftover iron scattered on the ground there with the initial creeper growing all over it. So again, a lot of reference photos. When I travel anywhere, I like to take heaps of photos of various things that interest me and bring them back to my modelling from there. Looking through my photos, I find little scenarios that I think I'd like to incorporate. So here I dressed up the window with a curtain flying out in the wind, and a broken window with some bits of tape across it, just to give it a little bit of character and help with the old worldiness of it all. Here's a typical scene that I incorporated in, which just reminds me of someone in their shed for years and years, just cleaning out their paint pots and things around the back of the shed where no one would see. The grass is dead where the paint's got into the soil and nothing will grow there, that sort of stuff. So the further you go with these sort of things, the more images and the more things pop into your head that think, oh, I could add that, I could put that in. Obviously it's easy just to remove them as well, and then you just add more stuff as you're going as well. Once the shed was completed, I've embedded that junkyard car from the previous tutorial into the side of the shed just to add some character to the scene as well. Very happy with the way this turned out. Once the shed was completed, I worked on the outside, putting timber up against the wall, lots of junk lying around, weeds and things growing up around it. Now when it came to the inside of the shed, we just rummaged through our junk boxes of models and found all sorts of bits and pieces that we thought someone would hang up in a shed. So that was a lot of fun to dress the shed up. Some of the pieces in here were from proprietary kits, Tamiya, that sort of thing, the fridge and compressor and those sort of things, and we just dressed them up just to give them a bit of character. And the more little details and touches and weathering and grime, just all adds to it. I was super happy. Once we had all our bits and pieces together in one spot and we'd come up with a plan, we got into the workshop one day. Cami set up the camera and off we went. So enjoy this little time-lapse sequence of Cameron and I putting this together. I think we worked on this for maybe an hour. I think this time lapse was. Doesn't take long to come together if you've got everything on hand, that's for sure. Once it was complete and dried, we took it outside and took some lovely shots. You can't beat filming outside in direct sunlight to give you the true shadows, that sort of thing. So that's it, guys. That's our junkyard project. We were chuffed with it. Cammy's got some awesome pictures on his Instagram with it. And now you've seen the process. Again, keep in mind, if there's anything here that you want to see or you want to explain, just hop down in the comments. Give me some ideas of what sort of stuff you'd like to see, what sort of stuff you're struggling with maybe, and I'll see if I can shed some light on it for you and post them in future videos. Alright guys, that's it for today. Lovely to have you on board again, and please tell your friends about the channel and get them to come along and enjoy the fun too. That's it from me for now. Happy modelling.